And so, lying on my bed one night, right here in Beverly Hills many years ago, it must have been 14 or 15 years ago, I suddenly became aware that I am seeing what I shouldn't see. I am looking into the most marvelous interior of a plush hotel. It seemed that way to me. And so consciousness followed vision, and I found myself in the room. But I knew I was on the bed, so I came back to the bed. I'm still seeing the interior of this room, and I went back into that room. I came back again. I must have done it 12 or 20 times. It was fun, going into the room, and the room was just like this, real. Then I came back to the bed. Now, I said, I am now going to explore. Regardless of consequences, I am going to explore. And so I went into the room. It seemed like a room 30 by 20 from the bed. When I entered it with the decision to explore, the room closed upon me and became a third of itself. Say it became 10 by 7. And I found it was a dressing room for a huge big suite, beautifully done, but it wasn't yet occupied. It was there to be occupied, but the room at the moment, that is the suite, was not occupied. And I thought, well, now I'll go through the door. I didn't go through like some gossamer. I opened the door with my hand and I walked right through that door. I was solidly real to myself. Then I walked down the corridor. And the corridor that I walked down was intersected by the main corridor. And all the lights were on. And two ladies were coming down that corridor, the main one. But I knew this thing began as a dream. So I knew, well, all ends run true to origins. Therefore, if the origin is the dream, this is the dream. So I say to the ladies, ladies, this is the dream. This whole vast world is a dream. And then they were afraid of me. Who wouldn't be afraid of a man that suddenly appears on a place in your, I would say, walking, and tells you this whole vast world is a dream? You would think he's nuts, he's insane. And so they thought I was insane, and they got just as far as they could from me, and walked right next to the wall, duck style, one behind the other, and looking at me very suspiciously. Then I saw this object hanging from space, and it reminded me of a similar object I had seen in a friend's home in North Hollywood. So I said to them, look, see this? And I held it, and to my surprise, it isn't gossamer. This is not an after image. This is not a memory image. This is real. The thing is solid. Well, I held it, and by this time they were way down. They took one great look as they looked back at me, and then darted into the main room. And here I am standing alone, holding on to this thing. I said to myself, Neville, you know this is a dream. The origin is a dream. The end is a dream. Come on, wake up. I closed my eyes to the obvious, and I held this thing here, and I couldn't. I opened my eyes again. I'm still standing there. But how am I going to get back to my room in Beverly Hills? I didn't know what. There was no place I could go to take me back there. But I remembered, feeling is the secret. I'm holding this here now, and it's real. It's solid. I'm solid. They saw me. They heard my voice. And I walked on, and every step was solidly real as walking on here now. So I imagined that my head was on a pillow. When I could feel a pillow under my head while I'm standing, I suddenly felt myself in a horizontal position. And my head is on a pillow. And then, all of a sudden, I could feel that pillow. But I was cataleptic. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't move a hand. Couldn't move a finger. And here I am, a living being in a dead body. So I said to myself, well, they'll find the body tomorrow morning, and they've got to cut it up because I'm insured for a little bit. And to prove that nobody took my life, they have to cut it up to find out why he died. Always have to ask that question. And they'll give it a name. If they can't find it, they're going to give it a name anyway. So here I am, couldn't open my eyes, couldn't move my hand. In about 15, 20 seconds, it would seem much longer than that, my little finger, I could move it. And then I could move my hand a bit. Still couldn't open my eyes. And we were sleeping in a double bed. So I pushed my hand out, my left hand, and I could feel the warmth of my wife's body. Pardon me. as that I knew I was back on my bed. In another 15 or 20 seconds, I could, with great effort, open the lids of my eyes, and here came all the familiar objects on the walls, on the bureau, and everything returned to consciousness. Now, I stepped into a world just as real as this. I am telling you, there are worlds within worlds within worlds, and they're all here right now. Just like turning on a radio, and you turn it ever so slightly, and you have a new wavelength and a new station coming in, bringing something entirely different, and they're not interfering with each other. And these worlds are all here now, and there are people, just as we are peopling this world, and they're just as real as this world. It's terrestrial. And it doesn't, you don't walk for it. I was on the bed. I seemed to walk into it. I would say, 10 feet away? But the same area permeated the bed, and the bed did not obstruct it. And that world into which I stepped did not obstruct the house that I lived in Beverly Hills. It's all here, the whole vast world. Worlds within worlds within worlds. So I tell you, facts are the flood. That's the deluge. There was no other kind of flood. We are actually inundated with the facts of life. And these facts, we change them every day. Today, this is the cause of so-and-so. Tomorrow, that's not so. It's another cause you found. And then the next day, another cause. But while we haven't found the next cause, we believe that to be the fact. And we worship the facts. So I tell you, all things are in the human imagination. Man is all imagination. And God is man. And exists in us and we in him. The eternal body of man is the imagination. And that is God himself. There is no other God. It's all your own wonderful human imagination. And the one thing the whole vast world aches for is the awakening of the imagination. And when it comes with the birth of the promised child, which sets a man free from the horrors of this world we call the world of nature. For nature is simply that principle on which depends the sameness of forms in transmitted life. And so the thing goes over and over. Haven't you observed a year that at a certain time of the year, money is tight? All of a sudden it flows, and then at a certain time of the year, it's tight. Why? It's a habit. It's a transmitted state. You fix that fact in your mind's eye, and if you got $50,000 today, and say it's the month of December when it's always tight, you're going to loan the money out or give it away before December comes by. So when it comes by, you're going to be tight again. It's a peculiar, I would say, slavery, this thing called nature, in the sameness of forms in transmitted life. Now, you can penetrate the fact and break it. And that's what we're here to teach. I come not to abolish the law and the prophets. I come not to abolish them, but to fulfill them. And tell you the real law. It's not washing your hands before meals, although that's a very nice, clean thing to do. It's not giving certain diets, doing this, that, and the other. He explains that the entire law is psychological. He takes one of the commandments, which is a graphic one, to show you how everything must be interpreted psychologically. He said, you have heard it said of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say unto you, any man who looks lustfully upon a woman has already committed the act in his heart with her. But what man hasn't? What man has not violated that? So he tells you the whole thing is a psychological thing. You can't restrain the impulse because you may restrain it based upon 1,000 different reasons. Maybe you are afraid of the consequences. Maybe you are afraid that someone will find out. Maybe you're afraid of this, that, and the other. But the impulse was there, and he tells you the impulse was the act. Well, if the impulse was the act, then creative acts are imaginal. For it was an imaginal act. So I have to observe my imaginal acts. For the imaginal act is a fact is going to actually become a fact and then confront me. Here was a lady in San Francisco. He said, my brother, and she said to me, I think he's innocent, but I do not know the facts of the case. But he was given 6 months at hard labor. He was in the army. And I don't think my brother should get 6 months hard labor in the army. I said, you want him out? He said, certainly I do. I said, I'll tell you what, that you may try it, so you can give all praise to yourself and not to me. You do it. But what must I do? Well, if he was out, would he come home? Oh, yes, he'd come straight to my place. All right. And if he came to your place, what would you do? Well, she said, I would throw my arms around him and kiss him. Feel him. I said, all right, do that. When you go home tonight, sit where you would normally sit, and just imagine that your brother is there, and that you have thrown your arms around him, and you're holding him and hugging him, and kissing him. The next Sunday morning, in my meeting in San Francisco, that woman could rise and tell this story. She said, I went home, and I imagine I heard the doorbell ring, and the doorbell is downstairs. I have to run down one flight of stairs to answer that door. So I heard it ring, and I ran downstairs, and I flung the doors open, and here stood my brother. I went back upstairs. There was no brother, but I did it so vividly, it was almost like a disappointment that I didn't actually see him standing there. But it seemed so real to me. Well, a few days later, she's sitting upstairs, and the doorbell rings. She said, I almost broke my neck to get downstairs, because I knew what was going to happen. And here she threw the door open. Here is her brother. And she stood up in the audience and told that story to the 1,000 who were present that Sunday morning. And they all saw. No one, I presume, would go and verify it. I trusted her implicitly. If she lied to me, well, then it's entirely up to her. But I'm convinced the whole thing was true. I don't check you. I believe you when you tell me that it happened. But the thing is to practice. We are the operant power. And the flood is on. Let no one tell you the flood is over. And the flood is deeper and deeper because we're more and more inclined for facts. We want the facts of life. You want the facts? Well, you make the prison walls all the thicker. But learn how to penetrate the facts. And as you penetrate the fact, you must go to a certain objective beyond the fact. What do you want now? Well, then you go into the state of the wish fulfilled. What state? The state you decide. You determine what you want in this world, and you go right into that state. And then ignore the facts. Suppose the facts now still denies what you did. It doesn't matter. Let the facts remain. They'll dissolve. They'll all dissolve because you're going to remain faithful, and you'll occupy the state. No longer are you going to construct it and not occupy it. You're going to occupy the state. And as you occupy the state, it's going to work. You can do that with a job. A friend of mine in New York City, he came from out west. He was an engineer. And he said, Neville, I want more money and I want more responsibility. I want to work for a certain firm. I said, do you know where they are? He said, yes, on Madison Avenue. They do international work. They build bridges, they build dams, they build things all over the world. And I would like a job that would send me away because I would get 3 times the salary. I said, well, I'll go to the place and see where you would sit if you got the job there. Before they send you off, you'll work in the home office first, wouldn't you? I think so. Well, go up there and just take a good look. He walked into the place, picked out the desk, picked out the place, and then he assumed when he got back home, he was seated at that desk. And that was his job, and he named the sum of money, which was a considerable sum of money. He and his wife and daughter used to come to my meetings. Within a month, he was in that job, and within 2 weeks, he was on his way to the Near East, building bridges. Unfortunately, in a way, he did not live very long. He was a young man, but in about 3 years, he was gone. Heart attack, he was gone. But he would have gone anyway, whether he was here or there. For we come on time and we go on time. But at least before he departed this world, he found the principle. which he will carry with him into the next world, for there is no death. He is restored to life in a world just like this, clothed in a body just like his, only young. Young as he was then, he'll be younger. But he has at least the memory of what he did to get what he wanted, and it worked. And so now he goes with the principle in his mind's eye.
So basically, according to Neville Goddard's teachings, you are who you are because of what you believe yourself to be. Science have proven that 95% of who we are in control. And we control that based on the state of our mind. The state which we occupy in our mind will determine the kind of person that you're going to be in your life. So you have the power to change your life. So basically, when science is saying 95% we are in control, it simply means that we are highly programmable, easily programmable. And the fact that we can easily program ourselves means that the person that you are right now, where you are right now, is simply because of a program that you have in your mind. So if you want to change your life, you simply have to change the program. Now, what Neville is saying is you can easily change the program by making yourself feel as if you are in the desired state, right? The feeling is the secret. It is the secret to you shifting your reality, to you shifting your state. You have to feel as if you are, even though you're not. Because the fact that we can imagine things that are not really here physically, it means something. The ability to imagine is not an ability that you just have just so you can imagine. No, you have that ability to take control of your reality, to take control of your life, to change your life. But it's not simply about imagining. It's about going all the way to feeling the emotions associated with that state that you're imagining. So if you want to change your life, what would the feeling be like, right? You're imagining yourself to be in the desired state. And as you do that, you feel saturated with the emotions associated with that state. So Neville Goddard is calling you to make use of this God-given gift. Start walking by faith, not by sight. Walk with the conviction of things not seen as though they are seen. Because that is how things are created. You create things by having this conviction that it is there, even though it's not there. But because you are imagining it and you're feeling the emotions associated with that state, then it is real. Because as within, so without. Everything starts from within. Everything starts from an invisible state. You just don't see it. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. No, it exists, but it's just not physical yet. But how do you make it physical? By taking the embodiment of the feelings associated with that state. Know exactly what you want. Imagine it. Create a scene associated with that state. Feel the emotions associated with that state and live as though you are that person. Your circumstances don't matter. Don't look on the outside. Look on the inside. Focus on the inside. This body is nothing without the soul. If you take the soul out of the body, there's nothing. You're dead. The soul is the emotional part of us, the willpower. So Neville, in other words, is saying focus on who you are on a soul level. If you imagine yourself to be wealthy, the feelings of being wealthy, that is your soul reacting. Your soul is saying, I am wealthy. So those feelings, because the soul cannot express itself without the body, those feelings will be expressed on this physical. How? The world will rearrange itself. Events will happen that will make you feel the emotions that you are always feeling on a soul level. So you have to master who you are within. Your internal the internal part of you. That is what is important. Focus on that. Don't focus on the outside. The outside is a reaction, is a shadow of the within. So you cannot focus on the effect. Focus on the cause. The cause is within. The effect is the outside. So focus on who you are within and change your life. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day.